You know that sound? You reach for the hook by the door, the metal clip on the leash gives that tiny familiar jingle.
Oh, yeah, and instantly it is like somebody flipped a switch.
Right. The ears pop up, the eyes go wide, the whole face brightens. I mean, for a second, you see that exact same puppy energy from a decade ago.
It is pure, unadulterated joy.
Hmm.
The brain is just firing on all cylinders, signaling that it is time for an adventure, time to patrol the territory.
Time to be a dog.
Exactly, time to be a dog.
But then you watch them actually try to stand up, and it takes just a beat longer than it used to. The back paws sort of, shuffle on the hardwood floor.
Yeah, trying to find some grip.
Right, trying to find grip before they can finally push off. And when you get to the front step, there is this half-second hesitation that simply was never there before.
Which is always so hard to see.
It is. You are looking at a dog whose spirit is completely ready to conquer the neighborhood, but whose body is quietly asking for a little bit of grace.
That tension is just so poignant when you observe it day to day. The vivid, engaged personality is still entirely intact. I mean, they still want to supervise the street. They still want to smell every single leaf on the block.
Oh, absolutely, every single one.
Right. But the physical vessel carrying that personality is fundamentally changing. And usually, those changes are happening under the surface long before we notice them.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to me, this feels a lot like owning a classic vintage car.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Yeah, like the engine still sounds amazing and you love driving it more than anything, but you can't just turn the key and peel out of the driveway anymore.
No, definitely not.
You have to let it warm up. You have a very specific sequence of steps just to get it out of the garage, and you have to intimately know its quirks. Today's deep dive is about exactly that.
We have a really fascinating stack of sources in front of us for this one.
We do. We are looking at detailed veterinary care notes and behavioral observations, specifically focusing on the senior years of the Pembroke Welsh Corgi. And our mission for you listening today is figuring out how to listen to two different parts of your dog at the exact same time.
The eager puppy brain.
Exactly. The eager puppy brain and the aging senior body.
And undertaking that mission really starts with defining when senior actually begins. We tend to look for a milestone.
Like a specific birthday?
Right, but it is not like they hit their 10th birthday and suddenly a switch flips. The aging process is much more like a slowly leaking tire.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't necessarily notice the pressure dropping day by day, but eventually the handling of the vehicle fundamentally changes.
The sources are very clear that there is no universal retirement party for dogs where they just, hand in their Erding badge.
Definitely not. Two corgis of the exact same age might experience completely different realities. It depends on genetics, their lifetime health history, previous injuries.
So one 10-year-old might still be happily doing 2-mile hikes on the weekend.
Exactly, while another needs a very short, highly managed stroll around the block.
Which is why the source material heavily emphasizes the crucial role of record keeping. Because aging is insidious, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
You have to compare today's dog to yesterday's dog, not to some textbook standard.
You are looking for subtle shifts, like how they recover from that walk, how they settle into sleep, or just their general stiffness.
But the metric that stands out most prominently in the clinical notes is weight and body composition.
Okay, wait, I want to push back on that for a second. The notes flag unexpected weight loss as a major red flag. But if I have a slightly chunky corgi who suddenly starts shedding a few pounds as they get older, shouldn't we be celebrating?
It seems like it, right?
Yeah. Given the classic dwarf breed structure we are all familiar with, taking a little strain off that long back seems like a victory.
Well, what's fascinating here is the illusion of weight versus functional body composition. Context matters enormously.
Okay, how do you mean?
If you haven't intentionally changed their diet or increased their exercise and they are losing weight, that is a warning siren.
Because it is happening without us trying.
Exactly. Spontaneous weight loss could be dental pain stopping them from eating normally. It could be kidney disease altering their metabolism, or even digestive issues.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but most commonly in seniors, it is sarcopenia.
Sarcopenia.
Yes. That is severe age-related muscle loss hiding underneath that thick double coat.
So the coat is essentially acting like a disguise.
A very effective disguise, yeah.
We see a fluffy dog that looks the same size, but chemically and structurally, what is happening underneath is a completely different story.
Precisely. Sarcopenia happens because, as the body ages, it becomes much less efficient at synthesizing protein into muscle tissue.
Even if they are eating the exact same amount of food.
Even then, A dog can step on the veterinary scale and hold the exact same number while simultaneously gaining body fat and losing crucial functional muscle in their hindquarters.
That is terrifying.
It is, which is why you have to physically get your hands under their coat. You need to feel the shoulders, the back, the thighs.
Because that muscle isn't just for cosmetic appearance.
Not at all. It is the active suspension system holding their spine stable. When that muscle wastes away, they lose the structural support needed to rise comfortably, to pivot quickly, or to just recover from a minor slip.
And because muscle dictates movement, watching how they move tells us the actual truth about their physical state.
Yes, exactly.
You know, the sources paint a picture that reminds me of, like, a human athlete who pushed it a little too hard in their 20s.
Well, absolutely.
The kind of person who can still play a fiercely competitive game of pickup basketball once they are all stretched out and warmed up. But the next morning, they literally have to roll out of bed and groan just to walk to the kitchen.
That analogy perfectly captures the biological reality here. Many older dogs look completely fine in the middle of a walk.
Because of the adrenaline?
Right? Adrenaline, excitement, and their joints are warmed up. But the real story of their mobility is told by how stiff they are 3 hours later, when that adrenaline fades and they try to get off their bed.
So you really need to watch the mechanics of how they rise from a nap.
Yes, or how they navigate stepping over a slightly raised threshold in the house.
And it seems incredibly dangerous to just brush that stiffness off as an inevitable part of getting old. I mean, the notes insist on a vet-guided approach, specifically looking at arthritis management and spinal health.
It is dangerous because stiffness is a primary indicator of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And with corgis, we aren't just talking about general joint wear and tear.
We are talking about the back.
Yes, the biomechanics of their spine. A corgi's back is essentially a suspension bridge without a center support column.
Right.
As they age, the discs between the vertebrae, which act as the jelly-like shock absorbers for that bridge, they can calcify and become brittle.
And that is IVDD. Right. Intervertebral disc disease.
Exactly. If a disc bulges or ruptures, it presses directly onto the spinal cord. If your dog suddenly has a guarded, hunched posture, is reluctant to turn their head, or shows sudden hind-end weakness.
That is a medical emergency.
Yeah, it's a medical emergency, not just old age.
Okay, I know a lot of owners are really proactive and get genetic testing done when their dogs are puppies. If I have a DNA test on file that says my dog has the genetic markers for degenerative myelopathy, and my senior dog suddenly starts dragging their back feet, it is so tempting to just assume the DM is finally kicking in.
Assuming a new symptom is just a genetic destiny fulfilling itself is one of the most critical warnings in these veterinary notes.
Really?
Yes. Degenerative myelopathy is a devastating condition. It is where the myelin sheath, the protective insulation around the spinal cord, breaks down.
Like a frayed electrical wire.
Perfect way to describe it. The brain's signals physically can no longer reach the back legs. However, a past DNA test only tells you they are at risk for DM.
It doesn't diagnose what is actually happening today.
Yeah.
Meaning that sudden weakness could be a slipped disc from IVDD or like a localized infection.
Or a soft tissue injury, all of which can be medically treated.
Wow. So if you just write it off as the genetic disease and skip a full neurological workup, you might miss a totally treatable condition.
And allow the dog to suffer unnecessarily. Early detection is everything because it preserves whatever function they have left.
And detecting pain in this breed requires a completely different vocabulary. The sources really highlight their stoicism.
They do. They are incredibly tough dogs.
Yeah, they aren't necessarily going to yelp or cry out to let you know something is wrong. We have to look for hidden signs.
Like a dog who suddenly avoids being touched.
Or a dog that is panting heavily while just lying in a cool room. Even constantly changing positions while trying to sleep is a massive red flag.
Right, because they keep shifting, because they physically cannot find a comfortable alignment for their spine or hips. Catching that hidden pain isn't just about comfort. It is a mechanical necessity.
How so?
Well, if we treat the pain, they're willing to keep moving. If they keep moving, they maintain that vital muscle mass we talked about earlier. But if we ignore the pain, they become sedentary, the sarcopenia accelerates, and their physical decline just snowballs.
Which brings us to the concept of environmental engineering. We obviously cannot cure the biological aging process, but we have total control over the environment they navigate every single day.
Yes. Adjusting the world to fit the dog's new physical reality is far more effective than forcing the dog to struggle against a world built for puppies.
And the absolute priority in environmental engineering is traction.
Traction is everything.
Those gorgeous polished hardwood floors or slick ceramic tiles are basically an ice rink for a senior dog dealing with hind end weakness.
It is exhausting for them. Every step requires them to micro-adjust their stabilizing muscles just to keep from slipping.
Which must just drain their energy. The simple fix highlighted in the notes is laying down stable runners or, yoga mats specifically on their highways.
The high traffic paths.
Yeah, connecting their bed, their water bowl, and the door to go outside.
Providing that grip instantly restores a sense of agency. When they don't have to fear falling, they remain active and engaged with the household.
I noticed in the source notes that stairs often become a sudden, unexpected battleground. A dog will confidently navigate the same flight of stairs for a decade, and then one Tuesday, they just sit at the bottom and flat out refuse to go up.
It happens all the time.
Wait, if my dog stops wanting to go upstairs, isn't it just because they're getting stubborn or lazy in their old age? It is so tempting for an owner to look at that and think they just want to be carried.
A sudden refusal to perform a deeply ingrained physical task is never stubbornness.
Never.
Never. It is the dog trying to initiate a health conversation. From a biomechanical standpoint, going upstairs forces a dog to launch all their body weight off those weakening hind legs.
That makes sense.
And going downstairs loads all that weight onto their front shoulders while asking their long spine to bend at a really unnatural angle. Yeah. If they refuse, it usually means the mechanics of climbing are actively causing pain. Alternatively, their vision might be failing, turning the staircase into this terrifying, blurry drop-off.
Or they experienced a minor slip when you weren't looking, and now they just associate the stairs with fear.
Exactly.
So the natural instinct is to buy a ramp. But the sources provide a stark warning that a bad ramp is actually worse than the stairs.
It really is. A steep, narrow, or wobbly ramp feels incredibly precarious to an animal already struggling with balance.
So what makes a good ramp?
A properly engineered ramp must be wide, have a gentle incline, and feature high grip material. You have to observe their body language when they use it.
Like if they are scrambling.
Right. If they're scrambling, lowering their center of gravity, or looking panicked, the ramp is failing them.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, wait, I hear the transition you're setting up there.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Taking away the stairs, covering the floors and rugs, swapping out the tall, luxurious couch for a supportive, floor-level orthopedic bed. It is entirely about preserving the dog's dignity.
Yes.
You are making practical home adaptations to maintain their confidence without necessarily turning your living room into a clinical hospital ward.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, yes, dignity is the exact right word. And that logic heavily applies to how we approach their exercise, too.
The notes definitely do not suggest you stop walking a senior dog.
No, absolutely not. Movement lubricates the joints, it maintains that critical muscle mass, and it provides irreplaceable mental stimulation.
We just have to change the parameters of the walk.
Right. Shorter distances, a much slower pace, and most importantly, prioritizing sniffing time over mileage.
Letting them check their P-mail.
Exactly. Allowing them to stand and process the sense of the neighborhood is just as exhausting and rewarding for their brain as a 2-mile hike used to be.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We can modify their physical world to accommodate their shrinking mobility, but their sensory perception of that world is also degrading.
Yes, and that changes everything.
Vision and hearing loss fundamentally alter how they process their environment, and it seems like these changes often go completely unnoticed until they are quite severe.
Because dogs are masters of compensation. With vision loss, they literally memorize the layout of your home.
So you might only notice a problem when they bump into a chair that was moved.
Exactly. Or when they hesitate to enter a room with dim lighting because their eyes can no longer adjust to the shadows. The solution is simple but vital.
Stop rearranging your furniture.
Stop rearranging it. Keep their spatial map reliable.
Now, hearing loss feels a bit trickier to navigate. You call their name from the kitchen, they don't come, and the immediate human reaction is, wow, he is completely ignoring me now.
Right? Hearing loss absolutely masquerades as selective hearing or stubbornness. You might notice them sleeping soundly through the doorbell, or being violently startled when you touch them from behind.
So how do we adapt to that?
The necessary adaptation is shifting entirely to visual communication, teaching broad hand signals, approaching them within their field of vision.
And you really have to become hypervigilant when walking them near traffic.
Yes, because they lose the ability to localize the sound of an approaching car.
But the sensory decline directly impacts their sleep and their mind, which leads to one of the most surprising sections in the source material. The notes describe dogs having difficulty settling, experiencing night waking, or completely reversing their circadian rhythm like sleeping all day and pacing all night.
It is very distressing for owners.
I can imagine. If my dog is staring at walls and pacing the living room at 2 a.m., isn't that just a clear-cut case of doggy dementia?
Cognitive dysfunction syndrome, which is essentially canine dementia, is a very real and heartbreaking condition. But the sources issue a massive warning against self-diagnosing cognitive decline based on nighttime pacing.
Because there are physiological reasons that look exactly like neurological decline.
Exactly. A dog pacing at 2 in the morning might be doing it because their arthritic spine aches and they physically cannot find a sleeping position that relieves the pressure.
Oh, that is so sad.
Or they might be staring at a wall because their vision and hearing are fading and the dark, silent house is causing severe anxiety.
Or maybe they just need to go outside.
Yes. They might simply be pacing because their aging kidneys are producing more urine and they desperately need to pee. Pain, anxiety, sensory loss, and organ function can perfectly mimic dementia.
And the critical distinction is that pain and medical issues are highly treatable.
Treatable, yes. If you label a pacing dog as just senile, you are missing a massive opportunity to alleviate their suffering.
That completely reframes how an owner should view a restless night. It forces you to look at the mechanics of the dog's body rather than just assuming their brain is fading.
It really does.
And those sleepless nights inevitably bleed into the day-to-day reality of managing their overall bodily functions. I want to shift into diet and dental health because corgis have a legendary, almost mythical food drive.
They do. And that food drive creates a very unique masking effect. A corgi will often continue to eat enthusiastically right through severe, agonizing dental disease.
So you can't rely on an empty food bowl to tell you their teeth hurt.
Not with this breed, no.
The notes suggest looking for secondary mechanical signs, like horrendous halitosis, physically dropping pieces of food out of their mouth while trying to chew, or noticeably shifting all their chewing to one side of their jaw.
And if they do require a dental extraction, the sources flag a highly specific breed consideration. Von Willebrand's disease, or VWD.
That is an inherited bleeding disorder, right?
Yes, where the blood lacks a specific protein needed to clot properly. If your dog has a genetic history of VWD, your veterinary team absolutely must know before administering anesthesia or performing oral surgery.
To prevent a routine extraction from becoming a hemorrhage risk.
Precisely.
It is incredible how many hidden variables exist in what seems like standard senior care. Even basic nutrition becomes complicated. The default assumption is that all older dogs need to be switched to a low-calorie senior weight management kibble.
Which isn't always true.
Right, based on our early discussion about sarcopenia, some dogs might actually require a higher calorie, higher protein diet just to fight off that muscle wasting. It is a highly individualized moving target.
It takes a lot of monitoring.
But I want to tackle the issue that the notes indicate is often the breaking point for a lot of families: house soiling.
It is an incredibly emotional and stressful issue. Owners often feel a deep sense of frustration.
I can completely understand why. You spend months house training a puppy. You have a decade of perfect behavior, and suddenly you are cleaning up accidents in the hallway. It is so easy to project human emotions onto that and feel like the dog has forgotten their training.
Or that they are doing it out of spite.
Yeah, like they're annoyed about a change in the house.
Projecting spite onto house soiling is a fundamental misunderstanding of canine biology. It is almost entirely physiological.
Like the kidneys we mentioned.
Right. Aging kidneys lose their concentrating ability, meaning the dog simply produces a larger volume of urine. Alternatively, linking back to IVDD and muscle loss, they might perfectly realize they need to go, but their hind-end weakness prevents them from physically getting to the back door in time.
The brain knows what to do, but the body cannot execute the command quickly enough.
Exactly. The response is never punishment. The response is increasing their access to the outdoors, utilizing indoor pads, and urgently evaluating their medical status.
It requires a total adaptation of the daily routine, and that applies to basic maintenance too. Grooming a senior dog changes drastically. You can no longer ask them to stand unsupported on a slippery grooming table for an hour.
No, they need short sessions on non-slip mats.
But the behavioral notes point out a brilliant diagnostic clue hiding in plain sight during grooming. Pay close attention to the wear pattern on their nails.
Uneven nail wear, specifically where the top surface of the middle nails looks scraped or filed down, is a major mechanical clue.
Meaning they are dragging their feet.
Yes, They no longer have the neurological connection or the muscular strength to fully lift the paw with each stride. It is one of the earliest visible signs of that progressive hind end weakness.
Which means if you are trying to trim those nails or wipe their paws after a walk and they suddenly pull away or growl, they aren't deciding to be difficult.
Sudden resistance to routine handling usually equals pain. Whether you are lifting them into a car, brushing their flanks, or touching their paws, a negative reaction is the dog's way of saying that specific movement hurts.
Discomfort talking, not defiance.
This raises an important question, though, when we look at all these colliding factors. How does managing the pain, the sensory loss, and the mobility issues ultimately impact the family dynamic and the dog's overarching quality of life?
Well, a senior dog requires a completely different kind of space within the home. The sources make it clear that young children in the household need to be explicitly taught not to startle a dog who can no longer see or hear them coming.
And not to force physical play on a body that hurts.
Right. Even younger, energetic pets in the house need to be managed so they give the old-timer some necessary peace.
Companionship for an older dog often looks profoundly different than it did when they were 2 years old.
What does it look like now?
Quality of life might simply mean sharing the same room, resting on a supportive floor bed near the family, without the need for constant physical contact, rough housing, or being picked up.
Their definition of joy shifts from high-impact activity to quiet proximity.
Beautifully said, yes.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive comparing an aging dog to a vintage car, an incredibly loved companion whose brain says go, but whose machinery requires a gentle, deliberate touch. After analyzing all these clinical notes and behavioral observations, the biggest takeaway for you listening is that an aging dog is still the exact same dog. The essence of who they are hasn't gone anywhere.
The personality remains entirely intact, even if the vessel has changed.
The daily walk might be a fraction of the distance and mostly consist of standing and analyzing the scents on a single fire hydrant for 5 minutes. You might be guiding them with broad hand signals instead of calling their name across a crowded park. The dramatic flying leaps onto the high couch are gone, replaced by a cozy orthopedic floor bed right next to the coffee table where they can still keep an eye on you.
But they still know exactly who you are.
They still know who drops the most crumbs in the kitchen.
They absolutely do. And recognizing that continuity leads to a crucial point about our responsibility to them. Adapting our homes and our routines to manage their daily decline is really a stepping stone to the larger, compassionate conversations we eventually have to have.
The end-of-life stage.
Yes. Planning ahead for the end-of-life stage and speaking candidly with your vet about what your specific dog's quality of life looks like isn't giving up. It is a profound form of care.
It means you are preparing to support them on their terms.
Rather than being caught off guard and forced to make panic decisions in a medical emergency.
It is the ultimate fulfillment of the promise you make when you first bring them home as a puppy. Which leaves me with a thought I want you, the listener, to mull over today. Think about the immense, profound trust it takes for an animal whose eyesight is failing, whose hearing is fading into silence, and whose spine aches to rely entirely on you.
It is incredible trust.
They are trusting you to interpret their silent signals, the slight hesitation at the bottom of the stairs, the anxious pacing at midnight, the scraped top of a toenail.
They are communicating through a completely nonverbal language of physical adaptation.
And observing that deep level of trust makes you wonder how that subtle language of adaptation shows up in our own human relationships. When the people we love begin to change, when they inevitably slow down or their physical and emotional needs shift over time, how do we adjust our own expectations?
That is a powerful question.
Do we get frustrated that they aren't functioning exactly the way they used to, or do we learn to read their new, quieter signals? Because whether it is an aging parent, a long-term partner, or a corgi waiting for the familiar jingle of a leash, the love itself doesn't diminish. We just have to learn a new, more patient way to walk together.